In today's discussion, we focus on a critical geographical phenomenon impacting urban areas globally, the urban heat island effect. This effect refers to the observable fact that urban regions often experience higher temperatures than their rural surroundings, a consequence of modern urban development. The primary cause is the extensive use of concrete, asphalt, and other materials in urban construction that absorb and retain heat. Additionally, the dearth of vegetation in cities as compared to rural areas further exacerbates this effect. For instance, on hot summer days, cities like New York or Tokyo can be several degrees warmer than their surrounding countryside. The implications of the urban heat island effect are significant. It leads to increased energy consumption as people rely more on air conditioning, contributes to the worsening of air quality, and exacerbates the effects of heat waves, posing a health risk to urban populations. To mitigate this, cities must adopt greener practices, such as planting more trees, creating urban green spaces, and using lighter-colored, heat-reflective materials in construction. Addressing the urban heat island effect is not just about improving comfort, it's about creating sustainable, livable urban environments for future generations. In today's talk, we explore the profound influence of ancient civilizations on our modern society. These early societies, from the Egyptians to the Greeks, have shaped many aspects of our current world, from our political systems to our architectural styles. Take, for instance, the ancient Greeks, whose concepts of democracy and philosophy still underpin much of Western thought. The idea of citizens participating in governance, debated in Athenian forums, laid the groundwork for today's democratic systems. Similarly, Greek philosophy, with thinkers like Plato and Aristotle, continues to influence modern philosophy, ethics, and education. Another example is the Roman Empire, whose legal system forms the basis of many contemporary legal frameworks. Roman law, with its principles of justice and rights, has been adapted and integrated into modern legal systems worldwide. Moreover, ancient architecture and engineering marvels, like the pyramids of Egypt or the Roman aqueducts, not only demonstrate early ingenuity but also continue to inspire modern engineering and architecture. Are you an agreeable person, a nice guy? If so, a logical follow-up might be, how are your finances? And here's why: agreeable people have lower savings, they have higher debt, and they're also more likely to go bankrupt or default on their loans. Sandra Matz is a computational social scientist at the Columbia Business School in New York City. And using a combination of questionnaires and bank data, she and her colleague Joe Gladstone found that people who score as more agreeable on personality tests have a better chance of ending up in dire financial straits, especially if they are low income to begin with. The researchers also combined personality data on millions of people in the US and the UK with regional data on how many people were unable to pay their debts. And they found, again, that the nicer a county or local area's people on average, the worse their finances. Matz thinks one factor could be that agreeable people just don't care much about money. Maybe they pick up the tab more often, or loan money when they can't afford to. They're generous to a fault. Dave Hackenberg, a beekeeper since 1962, can usually tell what killed his bees just by looking at them. If they're lying on the ground, in front of a hive, it's probably pesticides, he says. If the bees are deformed and wingless, it's probably vampire mites. But last fall, Hackenberg saw something he had never seen before. Thousands of his bee colonies simply disappeared. He was in Florida at the time, pulling the lids off some of his commercial hives. To his horror, they were all empty. A new process for 3D printing things could pave the way for lighter, faster aircraft that, potentially, fly further on the same amount of fuel. Today's aeroplanes are held together with thousands of metal rivets and fasteners. That's because the lightweight but strong, aluminum, alloys used for their frames are considered unweldable. Try to weld them and you get a phenomenon called hot cracking, in which the finished alloy weakens and fractures as it cools. Sweet potatoes contain fiber, vitamin A and calcium. But the way that scientists think they can make them even more healthful is literally shocking. Researchers found that giving a jolt, electricity, to sweet potatoes increased the level of antioxidants known as polyphenols by 60%. The investigators placed sweet potatoes in a solution of sodium chloride. In a chapter of Democracy in America entitled Why the Americans Are Often So Restless in the Midst of Their Prosperity, De Tocqueville sketched an enduring analysis of the relationship between high expectations and dissatisfaction, between political equality and envy. He wrote, "When all the prerogatives of birth and fortune have been abolished, when every profession is open to everyone, an ambitious man may think it is easy to launch himself on a great career, and feel that he has been called to no common destiny. But this is a delusion which experience quickly corrects. When inequality is the general rule in society, the greatest inequalities attract no attention. But when everything is more or less level, the slightest variation is noticed. That is the reason for the strange melancholy often haunting inhabitants of democracies in the midst of abundance, and of that disgust with life sometimes gripping them even in calm and easy circumstances." Why, today, on A Moment of Science, it's time for another round of baby skills, that fun and wacky guessing game that shows your baby is up to more than crying and napping. And today's question is, what can 6-month-olds do better than 9-month-olds? Don, care to take a stab at it? D, well, I don't really know, y'all. I thought 9-month-olds would be better at just about everything. Why, sorry, Dawn. It turns out that 6-month-olds are better than 9-month-olds at recognizing certain faces. In a recent study, scientists observed that 6-month-olds are equally good at distinguishing between non-human faces, as they are at distinguishing between human faces. I first heard about the ozone layer about 20 years ago. I was still in school. I thought it was interesting, but I didn't take it seriously. It was a bit like science fiction. I mean, how could there be a giant hole in the atmosphere? Over the years, more and more scientists spoke about the ozone layer. Global warming became a serious issue. Important people like Al Gore made movies about it. We all know today that the thinning ozone layer is perhaps the most serious crisis we face. Even though many people have changed their lifestyles, we are still damaging the ozone layer. We need to do something really drastic to stop this. We all need to stop driving cars and stop using
An allergy is an unusually strong reaction to a substance. Many things can cause allergies. The most common cause is pollen. Trees usually produce pollen in the spring, grasses in the summer, and weeds in the fall as part of their reproductive process. Other causes include organisms such as dust mites and molds. Chemicals, plants and dead skin particles from dogs and cats can also cause allergic reactions. So can insect stings and some foods. The most common kind of allergic reaction is itchy, watery eyes, and a blocked or watery nose. Allergies can also cause red, itchy skin. Some reactions can be life-threatening, for example, when breathing passages become blocked. Later this week, Americans will celebrate the nation's Independence Day. On July 4, 1776, colonial leaders approved the final Declaration of Independence for the United States. This year, the city of New York will also celebrate the opening of part of an important symbol of America that has been closed to the public for the past 8 years. The Statue of Liberty has stood in New York Harbor for more than 100 years. It was a gift from the people of France in 1884. Its full name is Liberty Enlightening the World. The Statue of Liberty is 46 meters tall from its base. It is made mostly of copper. Throughout history, images of liberty have been represented as a woman. The statue is sometimes called Lady Liberty. A listener in Poland recently sent us an email. Slavik Lobota writes, "There are many American universities and colleges that provide long-distance education to the world. The trouble is that each university says that it is the best. After an hour of searching and reading what they have in their offer, one gets a headache. You simply don't know whom to trust and what to choose." Slavik goes on to say, "I have been listening to VOA for years and I would trust you if you made an interesting program about American universities for foreigners. Is there a university that you could recommend?"
Population has a sharp rise in the recent 20 years. Figures could be established through rigorous establishment. Field trips are essential parts of most geography courses. Social psychology is concerned with the understanding of human behaviors.